Alright, here we go. This is our final video in our series on market structures, part 4. So our LEQ has been the same. We have perfect competition, and then what are the 3 different types of market structures that represent imperfect competition. So we have covered monopolies. We have covered oligopolies, and now we're going to cover monopolistic competition, which makes up, in terms of quantity, the majority of business structures. So let me say that again. The majority of business structures. I did not say the most profitable. I did not say the most powerful. I simply said a number. The majority of business structures, primarily sole proprietorships, operate in a market structure of monopolistic competition. So what is monopolistic competition? It is a market situation in which a large number of sellers offer similar but slightly different products, and in which each has some control over price. So as always, let's go over the conditions necessary for a monopolistically competitive market. Ooh, that's fun to say, monopolistically competitive. All right, so once again, I would encourage you guys to get out your notes on the characteristics of the other market structures and compare and contrast these, because you will have to do that on a quiz. So here we go. Numerous sellers. Well, that sounds a lot like perfect competition. Remember, guys, even though monopolistic competition is a form of imperfect competition, of the 3 forms of imperfect competition, monopolistic competition is the closest to perfect competition. Do not confuse monopolistic with monopoly. So here we go. Numerous sellers. No single seller, as in a monopoly, or a small group, as in an oligopoly, dominates the market. For instance, McDonald's dominates the fast food burger industry. McDonald's, Burger King, and maybe a few others, but it's mainly McDonald's dominates the fast food burger industry. McDonald's is an example of an oligopoly. Now compare that to a less recognizable burger restaurant, such as a sole proprietorship, a mom and pop burger shop that sells really good burgers. There are a lot of random restaurants throughout the nation, throughout the world, that sell hamburgers that are not McDonald's, that are not Burger King. In fact, if you were to take all of the mom and pop, no-name, sole proprietorships that are burger restaurants, you would get more of those than you would McDonald's. Now, they are not as profitable as McDonald's, they are not as powerful as McDonald's, but they are more numerous than McDonald's. Another characteristic of monopolistic competition is relatively easy entry. I did not say easy entry as in perfect competition. It's quite easy for anyone to start growing tomatoes in their backyard. But it's relatively easy entry. You know, you may need to take out a loan for $100,000 or so, but compare that to trying to start an oligopoly, which will take hundreds of millions of dollars. So entry into the market is easier than in a monopoly or oligopoly. One drawback is the high cost of advertising. So even though it is easy to get your business, whether it's a sole proprietorship, partnership, corporation, or franchise, even though it's easy to get it started, it's very hard to stay in business. Random factoid for you guys, even though restaurants are by far the most common type of business structure, sole proprietorship in the nation, they are also the most likely to go out of business. Because think about how many darn restaurants there are. It's easy to start one, but it's really hard to stay in business. And now I'm getting that advertising. So number 3, we are now at differentiated products. We talked about this a little bit in last night's video, and it applies to oligopolies and monopolistic competition. So once again, differentiated products applies to oligopolies and monopolistic competition. In perfect competition, the products are exactly the same. In monopolies, it's just that one product. So here's what differentiated products means. It's each supplier sells a slightly different product to attract customers. All right, so look. A hamburger is a hamburger is a hamburger is a hamburger, no matter how you want to cook it or slice it. If it has meat and 2 buns, it is a hamburger. However, anyone who's been born and raised in America knows that depending on where you get your hamburger from, the hamburger is probably going to taste a lot different. So let's say we have one restaurant, one sole proprietorship, they sell a hamburger. And it's a hamburger, and it's good. And then you go to another restaurant, and they also sell a hamburger. What are the odds of that hamburger tasting exactly the same? Very, very small. Each individual business always tries to say they have the best hamburger because they put a special sauce on it, or they use the highest quality meat, or instead of a regular hamburger bun, they put on a pretzel bun. And that leads me into condition number 4, non-price competition. So look, guys, take a look at that. Non-price competition. So that means competing by not changing price. Look, you guys know supply and demand. If you want to get more people to your business, all you need to do is lower the price. But that's not always in your best interest. If you lower the price, you're going to start losing profits. So how can businesses compete with one another without changing their price? And the answer is product differentiation. Think about number 3, and by advertising. So let's say I open up Jarrett's Juice Bar. Okay, cool. If I want to get more people to come to my business, I just lower the price. But remember, that's not always in the entrepreneur's best interest. However, what I can do, I can advertise how my beet juice is superior to Planet Smoothie or Tropical Smoothie Cafe or any of those other fake juice places, because my stuff is organic, it's fresh, it's grown in higher quality soil. Those are ways that I can differentiate my product. So even though I'm selling organic juices, so does Tropical Smoothie, but I can say mine are different because blah, 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 blah. And the number one way to differentiate your product is to highlight its differences through advertising. Come on down to End Zone. We have the best sauces for our wings. Don't go to the other guy because their wings suck. That's an example of non-price competition. The price of their wings remain the same, but they are trying to influence consumers' tastes and preferences. Think about the determinants of demand. And finally, we have number 5, some control over price. Because this is not a monopoly or an oligopoly or perfect competition, individuals or groups operating in a market structure that is monopolistically competitive, whether they are a sole proprietorship, partnership, corporation, or franchise, they do have some control over price. For instance, the best way you can influence the price of your product is through non-price competition. Advertising, influencing consumers' tastes and preferences. Let's say that I open up Jarrett's Juice Bar, and I can tell you guys now, if I open up Jarrett's Juice Bar, my juices are going to be significantly more expensive than Tropical Smoothie. Not because I want to make a lot of money, which I do, but because the quality of my juices are going to be higher. I'm going to use only organic and fresh products. Because all my products are going to be organic and fresh, that is going to force my price to be higher. So unlike an oligopoly or monopoly, if prices fluctuate too much, it starts to mess with the market. If I believe I have a higher quality product, and if my customers believe it, regardless of price, they are still going to come to my business. All right, so we went through those pretty quickly. We have a lot more to discuss that we'll get practice in class. Now, I want to give you guys some examples of monopolistic competition. And the answer is almost everything, maybe with the exception of that Burger King there. I would argue that Burger King is an oligopoly. Guys, think about any small town or downtown location. There's all these random, unique, independent businesses. Remember, sole proprietorships are the most common business structure. The most common market structure is monopolistic competition. If you want to open up a barbershop, you're going to be a sole proprietor and you're going to operate in a monopolistic competitive market. If you want to open up a nail salon, that's great. It's going to be a monopolistically competitive market. If you want to open up a juice bar, that's great. It's going to be a monopolistically competitive market. So once again, guys, I am not saying monopolistically competitive markets are the most profitable. That probably goes to oligopolies. Oligopolies are all the big businesses you hear about. Most large corporations operate in an oligopoly form of market, such as McDonald's, Starbucks, Microsoft, Apple, Google. Those are a few very powerful, very wealthy firms. But monopolistic competition, these are all the little guys are. And the little guys, we truly do outnumber the big guys. We're not as powerful or as wealthy, but there are more of us. So take a look at this street here in this picture. All these random businesses. I can see the Na Inn. I could see, I don't even read that language. But these are all examples of non-oligopolies, aka monopolistic competition. Okay, I would recommend writing this visual aid down. The most competitive market structure is perfect competition, which doesn't really exist. The imperfect competition that comes closest to it is monopolistic competition, followed by oligopoly, and with the least competitive being monopolies. We cover monopolistic competition in this video, and there are the 5 conditions necessary for monopolistic competition. As always, I appreciate your time and have a good evening.